Right, ladies and gents, it's new amplifier day. Better yet, it's new Dr. Z amplifier day. Now, I'm British, and saying Z is a big, big no-no, but I will always make an exception for the wonderful Dr. Z, out of sheer respect. And it doesn't really sound right to say Dr. Z anyway. So, in keeping with that American spirit, we have a new amplifier from them. Now, this was actually announced a few weeks ago, so it's been out in the public domain for a while, but of course, being over here on the other side of the pond, we've just taken delivery of our first batch of various Z products, but including among which was the new Z-28 Mk.II, and I really wanted to do a good job of delivering its tones to you. So, bit of a different style of amp demo than you may have seen from us in the past. I wanted to develop kind of a little bit of a covering all bases here, so I wanted to choose two different guitars to play. So you're going to hear a few clips from a Fender Custom Shop Strat and a Gretsch Jet as well with humbucking pickups, so you get a little bit of a different tonal spectrum to usual. And I have to say, I've played a lot of amplifiers in the past few years. It's always a treat to play a Z, but this one in particular does stand out as being something a little bit special. Now, I never really spent that much time with the original Mark I of the Z28, but it was very, very popular, and I do myself have a Route 66, which is where this amp and the original Z28 gets its initial design influence. So, for the uninitiated, here we go with some specs, and hopefully, by the magic of post-production, you're going to see a beautiful shot of the amp right now. We've had an upgrade in power on the Mark II here from around 22 watts from the Mark I to now 35 watts, courtesy of two 5881 power valves, as opposed to 6V6 in the original. We've got the same EF86 preamp valve in the front end, which is very dynamic, very receptive to pedals. We've got a couple of unique exclusive color configurations as well. So the head only comes in this stealth black finish. The combo only comes in this gorgeous red finish. The combo comes with a creamback M65 Celestion 12-inch speaker. It's the same combo cab design as the Joe Walsh signature Z Master, so similar dimensions. That was a great sounding combo amp. This is a fantastic combo sound as well. You've got the introduction now of a master volume, the Z Master, which is featured on a few other amps, including the Maz. Works great, kind of takes the place of an attenuator, where you don't have that kind of stepped reduction in volume. This is, of course, very linear, and it really does retain the tone down to a low volume. You've got the same active EQ as the Route 66 and the original Z28, works fantastically well, and you're going to hear that demonstrated in the sound clips. Okay, so just to explain quickly a little bit more about what I mean about the active EQ on here, as opposed to most amplifiers which just have a fairly standard linear passive EQ section. The bass and treble on here can either subtract or add gain to the circuit, which is quite unusual, so I presume it's kind of like the EQ is pre-gain, as opposed to a lot of amps which are post-gain. And what that means is, and as you will hear in the clips, when you reduce these controls to below 12 o'clock, you're actually subtracting those frequencies from the gain structure. And what that allows you to do is the opposite as well, and push it beyond 12 o'clock, and you start to hear more distortion in those specific frequencies. So you actually have a lot of play here. In conjunction with the preamp volume control, you can get a lot of different ranges and different shades and different subtleties of gain in different frequency responses just with the EQ and just with the volume. So it's not as simple as it looks. It takes a little bit of time to understand how they all interact with each other, but the fact that it all interacts with each other is what makes this thing such a kind of cool, living, breathing animal, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to clarify that, and you will hear examples of that and see them as I change the EQ settings in the playing clips. You've got a 5AR4 rectifier valves for some nice spongy low-end response, and it takes pedals exceptionally well, as you're going to hear in the course of the video. So that's all the specs out the way. Now I'm going to tell you what they mean. So to me, the increase in power from 22 to about 35 watts, big difference. I will say this doesn't seem to be anywhere near as loud as the Route 66 that I have, being 32 watts. So it's definitely upped in volume for where it used to be, but it's a very manageable volume, especially now that you have a master volume on board as well. You can really play a lot with the dynamic response and the amount of compression from the amp without it tearing your head off unless that's what you want, of course. As with all things Z, it's super simple, super clean, so you've just got 4 controls on the front. On the back there is but one jack socket for a single 8 ohm output for the head. Of course the combo has its own built-in speaker. No effects loops, no built-in boosts, no EQ bypasses, no nothing. It's just a fantastically pure sounding amplifier, and that is what made the original Z28 so popular with players, is the responsiveness. Now, I think there's a little bit of a misnomer and perhaps a misunderstanding here that this amp is a Fender Brownface Deluxe clone. It's not that. If you see the fantastic video that the Doctor himself put out talking about the launch of this amp, he says that that was kind of one of the initial inspirations for the Z28 and Route 66 circuits, that responsiveness and how kind of you had that sense of controlled destruction that a good old Fender Brownface amp would have had. But tonally, this sits in a different space, especially with the 5881s in the power section now. It has this more muscular American kind of voicing to it, which with the active EQ, you can get those really nice sparkly American tones, but when you start to compress it, that EF86 really brings out some chiminess. Now let's talk about that for a second, because this is one of those things that it's like the fairy dust, that a lot of people who have a basic understanding of amps will know EF86 means something magical, and it really does. So it takes the place of a 12AX7 valve in V1 in the preamp, and what it does is it kind of gives you a more broad frequency response, increased headroom a little bit, so you get kind of a little bit more of a responsive front end. And the big thing about that is that anyone who uses one of these amps as a pedal board platform means that it just kind of soaks up the dynamic response of your pedals a little bit better than some 12AX7 based amplifiers can do. Now that may or may not work for you, it depends entirely on the dynamics of how you set up your rig. For me, I think it works an absolute treat. I love the Route 66 for that reason. Having the EF86, this I think is one of the only amps still in the Z lineup that has that EF86 in the front end. So it's very receptive to pedals, and by way of showing you that, I'm going to have a clip when I'm playing the Gretsch with a Boss Blues driver in the front end, which is a pedal most guitarists probably either own or are at least familiar with. It just eats it up. It's like it's built into the amp, and that's one of the great things about Zs in general, but this one in particular responds even more nuanced, even more with increased articulation. It's just kind of a little bit more of everything that I personally really like. It has its own voicing, so it's either going to work for you or it's not. But if you're into that kind of hybrid of British and American style tones, which the Maz does very, very well, various other Z products do it too. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't like too many controls and switches and knobs to worry about, this is probably going to be the amp for you. So overall, it's just a refinement of what was already a great circuit. So this Mk.II hasn't changed anything too radically, but it has upgraded the power section. It now includes a master volume, same active EQ. There's not a whole lot of gain in it either, so it's very responsive, and even when you turn everything up to 10, it's still very clear. It doesn't kind of lose definition in a way that's unmusical anyway. The rectifier valve does add to that kind of sponginess, and is probably part of the reason that the volume isn't quite as excessive as some other 30, 35 watt-ish amps can be, because the rectifier is kind of loosening everything up, sagging everything a little bit. So I'm trying to put across as many descriptive ideals as I can here, but really the tones of this amp will do all of the talking for me. I need not say any more. I just wanted to demonstrate how great and dynamic this thing is. Z know exactly what they're doing, and if you've seen our videos before, you'll know we love them. They're used all the time in all of our videos, more or less, for very good reasons. So perhaps this is going to be the Z for you, or maybe you're already an established Z enthusiast and you have a collection, and now this one is going to take the place of probably top of the tree, I would say, for a lot of people. It's just really simple, but in my opinion, very close to perfection. Big claim, right? But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree? Is this your kind of amplifier, or is it just not quite hitting the mark for you, and maybe you want to check out something else from Z, or indeed any of the other brands that we happen to carry here? So if you want more information on the Z28 Mk.II, or any other Dr. Z products, or indeed any other products, full stop, click the links down in the description below, head to our website, and you can find out everything you want to know. But in the meantime, enjoy the tones. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Z, for another fantastic amplifier. Take very good care of yourselves, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
you.